I'm Princess of Tea, and today I'm cosplaying Tomoyo from Cardcaptor Sakura. The spring this year has been absolutely gorgeous, and seeing all the cherry blossoms around just reminds me of my favorite girl, Sakura. So I think I'm going to be making today a little treat in honor of her to surprise her. Today, we'll be making cherry blossom panna cotta. There are a couple different recipes for a Sakura panna cotta. Now the one I'm using uses coconut milk, although there are other versions that use yogurt or other ingredients. I just am not a fan of yogurt, so I'm using the coconut milk version instead. This recipe is broken down into two parts. The first part we'll be making is the base. Now you only need 4 ingredients for that. The first thing we'll want to do is take 3 tablespoons of cold water. I'm going to use filtered water so it's nice and cold. Next, you're going to sprinkle your 1.5 teaspoons of gelatin powder over the top of your cold water. And then you're just going to let it set aside for a moment to let it bloom. Next, we're going to take our coconut milk. Now, the recipe doesn't specify whether it's supposed to be sweetened or unsweetened, but since this is a dessert, I went for the sweetened kind because I figured it couldn't hurt. Now we're going to divide our coconut milk can in half. Now we're going to take our small saucepan and we're going to combine the rest of the coconut milk, half a can, and 1/4 cup sugar. Next we're going to heat that up on medium heat until it's just before boiling, roughly about 2 minutes. This coconut smells delicious though. I'm just going to stir it a little bit before we put it into the gelatin, just because I heated it a little bit too much. It's not burned though, so that's good. Now we're going to whisk our heated coconut milk into our gelatin, making sure that the gelatin is nice and dissolved. It actually dissolved really nicely. Now we're going to whisk in gently our unheated coconut milk. This should cool it down to help make it putting in the fridge a lot easier. Next, we're going to prepare our cups. Now you'll want to use 4 clear jars. I don't have jars, so I'm going to use glasses. Hopefully, I'm just going to make sure that my mixture is cool enough so it's not too harsh on the glass. But first you're going to want a container to put all your glasses in and to make it putting into the fridge easier. You don't need anything too big. These are pretty petite desserts, so I'm just using a half glass. Next you're going to want to take a small strainer and strain the liquid equally into the 4 containers. Oh, that's the perfect size. Look at that. My container that I've chosen has a little bit of raised edges in the middle, and it's causing them to be a little uneven, which I think we want it to be nice and flat. So I think we're going to switch containers just to ensure that when it sets, that the layer is nice and level. This should do the trick. Now that our 4 glasses are ready, we're going to go ahead and put this in the fridge. Now ideally you'll do this part either the night before you're wanting to give these to someone or in the morning for a dessert later in the evening. That's because this part of it needs to set for at least 4 hours, but ideally longer. We're going to go ahead and leave those in there for the rest of the day, and we'll be back in a few hours. Before we get started on the next part, the first thing that we're going to want to do is take 8 pickled cherry blossoms and run them under cold water for about 1 to 2 minutes, just to get kind of the excess salt off of them. We don't want to damage the cherry blossoms too bad, so I'm just going to do a very gentle stream. We're going to let that soak for 30 minutes, and then we'll start our part 2 of our panna cotta. The first thing we're going to do is take half cup of cold water. Again, I've used filtered water for this. And take 1 teaspoon of powdered gelatin. And just like before, we're going to sprinkle that on top and let it bloom. Next, we're going to take another half cup of cold water. We're going to put it into our saucepan, along with 1 tablespoon of sugar. We're going to heat that on medium heat and heat it up just enough so that sugar is dissolved. We're also going to add a little bit of food coloring to this while it's heating up. Now, you can use a couple different things. You can use freeze-dried raspberry powder, You could use a little bit of red food coloring, but the goal is to make it pink. Now, since it's around Easter, I had no trouble at all finding actual like pink food coloring, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. We don't want it to be like neon pink, so I'm just going to put in a little bit for now. Okay, now that the sugar is dissolved, we're going to go ahead and add in our cherry blossoms. Now here's where the recipe gets a little confusing, because it doesn't say when to add it to the gelatin. It does say to cool the heated liquid over an ice bath, which I assume is before the adding it to the gelatin. So we're going to try that and see how it goes. Next we're going to take out our cups from before. Now we're going to add 2 cherry blossoms and place them on top of the bottom layer. Next we're going to add our pink liquid to our gelatin, and hopefully we're doing this in the right order. Alright, let's stir that around. Like we did for the first layer, we're going to go ahead and take our strainer and then pour the cooled liquid over the top. I'm not sure if we did this right because it seems like all of our gelatin is in here now. We do need to let it set in the fridge for about an hour, and I guess we'll find out if it works. So I did end up remaking the top jelly part. I did do it incorrectly. So I redid the top part with whisking in the gelatin while the mixture was hot. And so now it's actually set. So we're gonna go ahead and try it and see how it tastes. I just love coconut. If you don't like coconut, then you might want to try either the yogurt, or there's a couple of cheesecake recipes that follow the same kind of idea. But I am a huge coconut fan, so this is super delicious. Once you get a little bit of the sakura flower, because it's pickled originally, even with the rinsing, there's still just a slight salty taste to it. So it's really good if you like salty sweet flavor combination, which I love, like salted caramel, bacon and maple. I just love a good salty sweet dessert. I'm super happy with how these turned out, and they're just so cute, just like Sakura. So I hope you liked this video as well. The recipe will be in the description below, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!